with Michael Berger and Mark Novak. Dumb Property
Yes.
Talk. Good morning, Todd. Nice title. I think, so Mark, tell us, what do we mean dumb property talk?
Well, I was talking to my brother the other day, and I got off the phone, and then actually, funnily enough, I don't speak to my brother and sister a lot, but on the one day I had them converge, and they don't actually talk to each other. But anyway, it's another story. They and then I was telling my sister the story. I'm like, seriously, and she's like, well, that's pretty normal. Like, if you're from Queensland, that's sort of
Wait, do you want to go through what he was thinking? You missed part, like he was thinking about selling there and buying.
I missed it on purpose though, because I want people to sort of to think about it. But she's like, you got to understand, Mark, that's just the conversation people have up there about property, and they're not used to what we're used to. And where we're going with this is. And how it all actually started is I got my brother on the phone, and he's like, you know what, we're going to flick this, we're going to buy this. Now, they opted to leave Sydney for a lifestyle reason, and I heavily respect that. That people move into different areas of Australia and Sydney and really improve their lives. And I think the Brisbane lifestyle, the Queensland lifestyle, and this is not a session to bash those suburbs or states, but it really did bring clarification to what our Sydney property market does, Michael.
Yes.
And the conversation, when he left Sydney, I was like, dude, this is 15 years ago. I sold his house. I'm like, dude, you sell this house, you're not coming back. You rent the house, rent it for 10 years, go on renting in Queensland. No, I want to buy in Port Macquarie. It's like, cool, things have changed, kids, school, that's more important to me. I'm like, look, mate, I respect that. Are you sure? Because you're making a mistake. Yes, I'm sure. Anyway, buy something for, and I'm not going to, because it's my brother, you might get angry because I've used real figures and stuff. So I'm going to use dummy figures, but same percentages.
Yes.
So say 300 grand, bought a house, and I'm like, dude, that's a really good buy, but it's not going to go up. And he's like, yeah, look, I know, but that's cool, good lifestyle. I'm like, okay, look, I respect that, fair enough. Now, what got up my nose, and this is the pub talk that we'll talk, and I were talking about earlier. What got up my nose is he's just about to crystallize and realize that asset, so he's actually going to sell it. And I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting. What's the number? Now, the number is 15% more than what they bought it for.
In 15 years? In
15 years.
Wow.
That's the kicker.
So on that dummy figure of 300 grand, that's 45,000. After...
I'm just in the Westfields car park.
They're just testing the blowhorns in Toys R Us.
The semi-trailers trying to go in the dock in the Westfields car park. Yeah.
So 15%. So 15% on 300 grand, 45,000. Wow. And in the Northern Beaches, we did these figures in one of the other morning minutes of 10 years. It was about if something was 300,000, it would be double, and it would have doubled almost again every 10 years. So
now the pub talk gets worse.
But that's not what's grinding your gears, because that was a lifestyle change. That's not it. Tell us what it is, Mark.
That's not it.
We're okay with that. That was lifestyle.
Well, okay. Like, let's look at the benefits of it. Great lifestyle, Port Macquarie. No mortgage, low mortgage, whatever it is. Brought up two beautiful little kids, and they are great kids now. They're 21 and 23, 4, 5. They've had grandkids and stuff, like fantastic, right?
Yeah.
Good lifestyle. But this is the kicker. So it's like, I'm going to sell it. I'm like, okay. So, he's going to make 15% on that money. I'm like, that is fucking ridiculous. So, bro, what are you going to do with the money? And he's like, I'm going to buy in Brisbane. I'm like, what? Like, bro,
Why?
bro. I'm like, I don't mean to be rude, but like, you're like 55, 54 now. You've probably got one or two really good punches in you financially to make some good moves. Like, hello, I'm a real estate agent, and
Yeah.
you know, my customers have sort of done okay in Sydney. I've watched them. I've done okay in Sydney. Do you want to ask me for an opinion?
Yeah, but it's not even just like the Queensland comment or anything like that. It's more, he doesn't, correct me if I'm wrong here, as far as I'm aware, he doesn't know anyone up there, or he doesn't have a real estate agent up there. It's not a strategic purchase or know of something. It's just going with what you read on the headlines, Queensland, Queensland, Queensland. You go, I'm going to buy in Queensland. So is that
gets
correct?
worse. And then it gets worse again.
Yeah. And then
it gets worse again. So then I'm like, bro, you could buy in DY. You know, you could buy in Narrabeen, Colorado. This is where we're brought up, right? So we went to Cranwell High School together.
And you have a lot of family in the area.
Yeah, there's 10 years difference. We've got family in the area. There's 10 years difference. He's my big brother. I'm like, dude, you know, like, I don't mean to be rude, but you know the unit you bought in 51 Howard Avenue? He goes, yeah. I said, let's look at how much. I go, you bought that for, and he goes, 55 grand, 65 grand. You bought it for 55, 65 grand. Yeah. And you sold it for how much? And he said, I sold it for 150, you know, 6 years later, 8 years later, or 7 years later. He bought it when he was 17. Right. So he put it in his girlfriend's name because she was 18. So I'm like,
he's
dude,
too young.
Yeah, it's too young for a mortgage. So, dude, you made good money there. Yes, I did. Okay. So then you bought up in Boyer Road, Beacon Hill. He goes, yeah. And I said, and you bought that for how much? And he said, I bought it for $250. I'm like, yeah. How long did you live there for? And he goes, 5 years. And I went on RP Data, and I said, and you sold it for $370. And he goes, I go, you almost doubled, no, $460. Anyway, almost doubled his money. Almost there, double it was $460.
In a couple of years.
I said, you almost doubled your money. He goes, yeah. I said, then you went along and you bought in Eleonora. Yeah. And I said, you bought there for whatever. He goes, yeah. And I said, then you pretty much doubled your money there as well over 5 to 7 years. He goes, yeah. I go, then you've gone and bought in Port Macquarie, and it's like in 15 years. And he goes, yeah. And I said, isn't that like enough of like a knock around? I said, what? And he goes, look, I can't afford North Sydney. I said, bro, I got a 1-bedroom unit that you can buy for $450K. It's rented for $420 a week. That's going to double in value in 10 years. Like, that's going to make you $500,000. $500,000. So does 500,000 sound better, or does 100,000 sound better of what you're going to be making out of your place? So yeah, and get this, gets worse.
Yeah,
he goes,
the kicker, Mark. Tell us more.
The kicker. He goes, you can't rent it. I go, what? Yes,
was there something wrong with the property, Mark? Did he know something we didn't know, or was that just a general statement about DY?
I just said, you know what? Even if you can't rent it, 500 grand and 100 grand, I know which one I'd want. But let's talk about you can't rent it. Are you asking me or are you telling me? Like, I am the real estate agent in DY for 30 years, for 27 years, whatever. Like, are you asking? I said, do you know how many properties we manage? I said, Rod, we've got 3,000 landlords and tenants. If there was a problem with renting a property, do you reckon I'm going to recommend it to my brother?
Because didn't he then say there's too many units, that's why you can't rent it?
Yeah.
So, but that brings it back to, and then you continue, because then you said, yep.
No, I just want to calm down a little bit. You can talk.
Yeah, okay. Because then you said to your sister, but that's just general pub, like that's what everyone's thinking or saying. And then we sort of thought going, shit, it probably is right. I reckon there's a lot of people out there at the barbecue, at the pub. I think we take for granted the sort of the inside run or knowledge we have because we do it day to day.
Big time.
And how many people are just having that general, because it's not like he was trying to piss you off or think of anything like that. It's just the general, what people are thinking. And then when they go to the pub or the barbecue, people are like, yeah, I reckon you're right. Yep. And then it just has that roll-on effect. So story, the moral is, if you've got, I don't even know, if you've got someone in the industry, use them, ask for advice. We've said it many times previously, like, and this is for clients to call us as well, just to pick our brain, but also when looking for a property purchase or anything, seek advice. Go to find people who are in the know. I think that's with anything before you make a decision. Like I reckon some people seek more opinions when they're buying a pair of shoes or a car than a bloody $500,000 or $1 million asset. And they just go off. Yeah. So seek advice and people who have done it as well. So
like if something's done well, like there must be a reason.
Yeah.
And it's almost like people find the reason for it not to do well in order to not buy the property. And it's like, why are you looking for reasons why it won't work? Well, like, are you just, I must be really dumb I know like, but, or I must be really simple to think that way. But I'm thinking if something's trialed and proven, like generally it's trialed and proven, you know what it is? For whatever reason.
People don't like to back the house. So what I mean by that, so like, let's say roulette, when it's been like 5 reds in a row, people just love to bet against it. They think they're going to have that quick win, the quick thing that's unproven.
With their life savings?
Yeah, with their life savings. So like, as he said, Northern Beaches has been tried and proven. It's true growth. It hasn't been because of infrastructure or some sort of third party or anything third element. It's just live by the water, the culture, and the lifestyle here that's had the growth. But then people are trying to bet against it and going, nah, or don't believe it, it won't happen. So, I don't know. It's interesting.
It freaks me out because, you know, and then like you're saying, I was chatting with my sister afterwards, like, look, I really don't get this. I don't really get it. Like, how much of a spank on the bum do you want to get from the property market in Port Macquarie to make you go back to, you know, your good old, like, you know what I mean? How much spanking do you need? Like, seriously, I just could not believe it. So, but then she was saying, like, you got to understand, hello.
There you are.
Hello. Then she was saying,
all the people watching on Insta, hey guys, Billy, Sam.
So she was going, look, you got to understand that that's like, if you talk, if he spoke to his neighbour next door, he would concur.
Yeah.
If you spoke to the neighbour in Port Macquarie across the road, they would concur. And if you spoke to the guy in the pub, they would concur that, you know, yes, you've made $100,000 out of that place. That's pretty good. Yeah, it's awesome.
Whereas I reckon that's the most dangerous thing in pub. Everyone just agrees. Then no one's going to call you out. They're not going to give you advice. So you've almost got to pay someone to seek it. Because if you're wrong, people are just going to say you're right or agree because they don't want to have that argument to tell you you're wrong.
And then if you came to a pub in Sydney and you said that, they'd say, mate, you got rocks in your head. It should have doubled in 15 years.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Sorry, I just lost you on the internet. What did you say? You come to a pub in Sydney and they would say...
If you're a pub in Sydney, they'd say, mate, you got rocks in your head. Your property should have doubled in 15 years. What did you do wrong?
Yeah. Come back, buy again. Don't make a mistake. If you can still buy. Instead of second guessing it.
It's bloody incredible, guys. So what I'm saying is Sydney doesn't have volcanoes, doesn't have earthquakes, doesn't have floods like in Brisbane, isn't cold like Melbourne. Like Sydney is a great suburb on so many levels, and I don't know why people want to challenge it or not agree with it or go against the grain on it. It is, you know, even if you just look at it on a caveman mentality, like I'm talking about earthquakes and floods and stuff, climatically, it is a magic place to live close to the equator, right? And climatically, economically, population-wise, the style of people that live in Sydney, your odds are better in Sydney. And the property market has doubled in Sydney for that reason. So whatever reason you don't, if you want to say that no, Sydney's got, Brisbane's got better weather, or if you want to, that's great for you. But on average, on balance, in the world, it does not. Right?
And
you may like the hot, right? But for most people, they don't.
Yeah. I reckon one of the best tips we can give people out of here if they are thinking of moving out of Sydney for their lifestyle reasons, lifestyle, is don't sell here and rent. I think we have this conversation with a lot of clients, especially when they're looking just a change of lifestyle, which is completely fine. They want to go from the beach or to the country. What we see clients do well is, especially if they've never done this change before, is they keep the property in Sydney and then they rent where they think they would like, because they don't know where they want to go they don't know if they'll like the farm life. Two, they don't know where within that area they would prefer. Just like Northern Beaches, think how many sort of micro social groups there are within the Northern Beaches. And if you're coming from the outside in and you just said Northern Beaches, like you want a Manly lifestyle, or you got the Monavale, Avalon, Colorado. There's so many different lifestyles. Rent where you're transitioning to first, see what you like. And the general rule of thumb is you can actually rent a better property than you can purchase. So if you kept your property in Sydney, which is going to have the great capital growth, and go rent. Do you know what
it's like to be a crash expert and know and watch the accident in slow motion and know you could have prevented it? Do you know what that feels like? Do you know what that feels like as a doctor to say, if you do this, you'll get cancer? The client doesn't do that and the client gets cancer. That's the same thing as my job. Like I'm watching people 10 years later make a bad investment in property, and then the person goes, oh, well. And I'm like, and this is my own friggin' brother.
Yeah.
It's and he's left $1 million on tax-free on the table.
Yeah.
$1 million. And I was there 15 years ago saying, go and rent, go up north, Queensland, Brisbane, Port Macquarie, whatever, go up north and rent this puppy out. Do not sell this puppy. That puppy has gone up $1 million. I'm that crash test expert that have watched that in slow-mo, that accident. Then the crash test dummy comes to me after the crash and says, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I don't get it. What do people need to understand that Sydney property is a good investment? Like, there is a shining example in my own family. I saw the turns before we went into the turns and the car came off the road. Look, I'm not talking about lifestyle, but you could have achieved that lifestyle and had that investment, like you just said.
Yep. It's true. Any comments there? Thanks. We've got Luke here, Sam, Lisa. Thanks for all the comments. Lisa Burke, Real Estate 101. Todd, common sense ain't so common. Damn straight. It's so true. Love this.
It's unbelievable.
It's good.
And I'll give you one more example.
Anything else you want to add there, Mark?
Yeah, I'm pissed off now. So one example, right?
Yeah.
I'll give you another example. I'm like Serbian background, and I get these guys that come from overseas 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Serbian, they come here. They buy a 1-bedroom unit. It doubles in value, right? They got a basic job. They buy a 2-bedroom unit and they rent out the 1-bedroom unit where they lived. The 2-bedroom unit doubles in value and the 1-bedroom unit doubles in value again. Then they keep the 1-bedroom unit, they keep the 2-bedroom unit, and they go buy a little house, modest house, little fella, doubles in value. And I see the guy on the street 20 years down the track. I go, mate, you've done really well. I've done really well. We just bought something in Brisbane.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you thinking? You've just had a hero run in this
Mm.
amazing country, in this amazing city, and then you go and take your hero money and you go and put it on somewhere that's unproven, not trialed. They'll buy in Melbourne, they'll buy in Brisbane, they'll buy. Like, why wouldn't you keep planting the seeds in the same area that's made you the money, in the same fashion that's made you the money? Why change the Colonel Sanders secret herbs and spices when you know the herbs and spices that do well?
Yeah. People do it in their property investments. People do it with their wives. People do it with their jobs and careers. They chop and change. It's always the grass is greener on the other side. They probably look at the Sydney market and go, I've done the most it can do. Now it's time to change horse. But it's like, no, there's no reason to change. Keep doing what you're doing. If you're baking a cake and everyone loves it, why the fuck would you change your recipe?
People, you know what? Because they get bored. They try to change something. They screw themselves. They screw themselves. Stick to Sydney property, guys. Don't be silly.
Yep. Proven, tested. And stick to DY. We can help you.
That's it. Supply and demand.
Alrighty.
Supply and demand. Supply and demand.
Yeah. Todd, love the passion. Thank you, Todd. It was it was a passion one today. I think we did well. Kept it down. I think that could have fired up a lot more.
Why? Look, it was two things close. It was two things close to my heart.
Yeah, I know.
Two things close to my heart. It was my own brother, and it was Sydney properties. It was two things close to my heart. So it's it's like do the right, just
do the right thing.
Yeah.
All right, thanks guys. Thanks, Jeff. Cheers. See you. What day say? See you Saturday morning. Thanks, guys.
See you, beautiful people. Bye.